How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell is a nonfiction book about attention, technology, community, and how modern life pushes people to constantly produce, consume, and stay busy. The title may sound like a guide to laziness, but the book is actually about something deeper. Odell argues that in a world where companies compete for our focus and time, choosing where to direct our attention is powerful. What she calls doing nothing means stepping away from systems that constantly demand productivity and distraction and learning to pay attention to the world around us again. The book begins by explaining the environment we live in today, where attention is treated almost like a resource that businesses want to capture and sell. Social media platforms, advertising systems, and digital services are built in ways that keep people scrolling, reacting, and staying online. According to Odell, this creates what many people call the attention economy. In such a system, the value of a person's time is often judged by how productive or visible they are. Even leisure activities can start to feel like work because they are tied to self-improvement, personal branding, or measurable results. Over time, this mindset can make people feel anxious, distracted, and disconnected from their surroundings. Odell wants readers to question this idea that every moment must be useful or efficient. She explains that the pressure to always be productive shapes not only work life, but also how people spend free time and interact with others. Instead of simply logging off or escaping from society completely, she suggests something more thoughtful, becoming aware of how our attention is directed and making deliberate choices about it. Doing nothing, in her sense, is a way to resist the systems that constantly demand attention while staying engaged with the real world around us. A major part of the book focuses on the concept of attention itself. Odell argues that attention is one of the most important things humans possess because it determines what we notice, what we care about, and how we understand reality. When our attention is constantly fragmented by notifications, news feeds, and endless content, we lose the ability to think deeply or observe the details of our environment. The book encourages readers to slow down and become more aware of everyday experiences, whether that means listening to sounds, observing people, or noticing nature. These small acts of observation may seem unimportant in a productivity-driven culture, but Odell believes they can help restore our sense of connection and clarity. The author often uses personal experiences to illustrate these ideas. One recurring example in the book is birdwatching. Odell describes how watching birds helped her learn to focus on subtle details and become more aware of the environment around her. Instead of constantly consuming information online, she began paying attention to living things nearby, the changing seasons, and the rhythms of her local area. This practice shows how attention can be trained and strengthened. It also highlights how meaningful experiences often happen outside the digital world. Another important theme in the book is the relationship between humans and technology. Odell does not argue that technology itself is bad. Instead, she explains that the problem arises when technology is designed mainly to maximize profit by capturing attention. Many platforms rely on algorithms and persuasive design techniques that encourage endless engagement. This creates a situation where people spend more time reacting and less time reflecting. Odell believes that technology should be used more intentionally, in ways that support community and understanding rather than constant distraction. Throughout the book, the author looks at historical examples of people who tried to step away from dominant social systems. Some individuals and groups in history attempted to escape society completely by forming communes or isolated communities. Odell examines these examples to show that total withdrawal often fails or creates new problems. Instead of leaving society behind, she argues for a different approach, staying present within society while refusing to follow its unhealthy patterns. This idea is sometimes described as refusal in place, meaning that change can happen without disappearing from the world entirely. The book also explores the idea of local communities and physical places. Odell suggests that modern life often pulls people away from their immediate surroundings. Online conversations can make distant events feel more important than what is happening nearby. As a result, people may lose connection with neighbors, local ecosystems, and shared spaces. Odell believes that paying attention to local environments can help people feel more grounded and responsible for the places they live in. This includes understanding the history, culture, and natural life of a region. One concept that appears several times in the book is bioregionalism. This idea focuses on understanding a place not only as a geographic location, but also as a living system that includes plants, animals, culture, and human activity. Odell uses this concept to encourage readers to see themselves as part of a larger ecological network. Instead of viewing progress only as constant growth and productivity, she describes a different perspective that values care, sustainability, and long-term balance with the environment. The book also spends time discussing the nature of the self. In modern culture, people are often encouraged to think of themselves as individual brands that must constantly be improved and displayed. Social media amplifies this idea by rewarding visibility, popularity, and constant updates. Odell challenges this way of thinking by suggesting that the self is not fixed or isolated. Instead, identity is shaped by relationships with other people, places, and living things. By shifting attention outward and noticing connections, people may start to see themselves less as separate individuals and more as participants in a shared world. To support these ideas, Odell draws from many thinkers, artists, and philosophers. She references writers, scientists, and social movements that question the dominant focus on efficiency and progress. Through these examples, the book shows that the struggle over attention and meaning is not new. People throughout history have tried to find ways to live more thoughtfully and resist systems that reduce life to productivity or profit. The author uses these references to show that her argument is part of a larger conversation about how humans should live. A key argument in the book is that reclaiming attention is a form of resistance. In a culture that constantly pushes people to stay busy, slowing down can feel almost rebellious. Choosing to observe, rest, or engage deeply with something simple can challenge the idea that value comes only from output or measurable results. Odell explains that this resistance is not about laziness. Instead, it is about protecting the mental space needed for creativity, empathy, and meaningful relationships. The book also talks about how constant online engagement can change how people think and feel. When attention is constantly pulled in many directions, it becomes harder to focus on complex ideas or long-term issues. Quick reactions replace thoughtful reflection, and people may become more reactive or anxious. Odell argues that restoring deeper attention can help individuals better understand both themselves and the world around them. It can also make it easier to participate in social and political life in a meaningful way. Another idea the author explores is the importance of context. Online platforms often show information in small fragments, such as short posts, headlines, or quick comments. Without context, it can be difficult to understand events fully or think carefully about them. Odell suggests that stepping back and spending time observing real environments or engaging in longer forms of thought can help restore that lost context. When people slow down, they may notice patterns, relationships, and details that would otherwise be overlooked. The book also encourages empathy as a result of better attention. When people take time to notice others and consider their experiences, they may become less judgmental and more understanding. Instead of seeing strangers as obstacles or annoyances, attention can reveal the complexity of their lives. Odell suggests that empathy grows from observation and patience, which are qualities that often disappear when life is rushed or constantly distracted. Another part of the book focuses on the relationship between activism and attention. Odell believes that meaningful change often begins with how people pay attention to issues around them. When attention is scattered or manipulated, it becomes easier for important problems to be ignored or misunderstood. By choosing what to focus on and engaging deeply with local realities, people may become more effective in addressing social and environmental challenges. In this sense, attention is connected to responsibility and participation in society. Throughout the book, Odell repeatedly returns to the idea that life is not simply a machine that must be optimized. Modern systems often treat people like units of productivity, but human experiences cannot be reduced to efficiency or measurable outcomes. Moments of reflection, creativity, care, and rest are just as important as work. By recognizing this, people may begin to redefine what success and fulfillment mean in their lives. The narrative also emphasizes the importance of time and space. Odell explains that people need room to think and experience the world without constant pressure. When every moment is filled with tasks or digital content, it becomes difficult to develop insight or creativity. Doing nothing, in her sense, creates the conditions for new ideas, relationships, and perspectives to grow. This space allows individuals to reconnect with themselves and their surroundings. In many ways, the book is both philosophical and practical. It does not provide a strict system or a set of steps to follow. Instead, it encourages readers to examine their habits and environments and ask questions about how they use their attention. For example, people might consider whether their daily routines help them connect with others and their surroundings, or whether those routines mainly serve systems that profit from their attention. The goal is not perfection, but awareness and gradual change. As the book moves towards its later ideas, Odell discusses how a different way of paying attention could reshape society. If more people choose to focus on local communities, natural environments, and meaningful relationships, it could shift cultural values away from constant growth and competition. This shift might encourage cooperation, care, and sustainability. While the book does not promise quick solutions, it suggests that small changes in how people direct attention can gradually influence larger systems. In the conclusion of the book, it returns to the central idea that doing nothing is not about inactivity, but about choosing a different framework for living. Instead of accepting the assumption that productivity defines worth, Odell encourages readers to explore ways of being that value presence, curiosity, and connection. By stepping back from systems that constantly demand attention, people may rediscover parts of life that have been overshadowed by speed and distraction. In the end, the main message of the book is that attention shapes reality. What we focus on determines what we notice, what we care about, and what kind of world we help create.
In a culture that constantly pulls attention towards endless content and productivity, learning to pause and observe becomes meaningful. Doing nothing, as Odell describes it, is really about reclaiming the freedom to decide what matters and to engage with life more deeply and thoughtfully.